Good morning, everybody. Uneducated economist here. It's nasty, cold, and windy out in the Pacific Northwest. That's pretty typical for Oregon, I guess. Freight waves. I have to give it to freight waves. They have come up with some really good articles lately. I'm going to leave links down in the description for you guys. And something that I had said a long time ago was that we are going into a bullwhip effect. That there is going to all of a sudden be an abundance of goods flowing through the system, and it's going to drive down prices. Now, if you go and you look at the article, it's pretty much what I have been saying. And really, what I had followed was lumber. What had happened with lumber, I figured was going to happen at some point throughout the rest of the economy. I was starting to lose faith in my idea, but I'm sticking to it. I mean, I always have. That we are going to experience some sort of deflationary scenario. Not in the sense that people are thinking. You know, the idea that prices have moved up so dramatically, and if that is to continue, we will run into a time where economic activity will come to a standstill because people will simply not be able to afford the items that are getting priced out of control. We're starting to see that happen in housing. The Federal Reserve has admitted that. I mean, there is no doubt to the exponential rise of homes that has become out of control to the capabilities of the average individual. I mean, it's just not there. Institutional buyers like BlackRock are buying up homes. They're taking them off the market. This is depleting an already depleted inventory for all those who are trying to buy out there. It's a difficult situation, no doubt about it. Now, here's something that I see coming, because I've said it for a while now. If you go and you look at what's taking place in China, you're going to see it taking place throughout the rest of the economies. And the last thing in the world they would want, whoever they are, is a deflationary scenario to come. In fact, it seems everywhere where COVID runs rampant, they have inflation because all of a sudden the economic activity slows down, things stop getting produced, there's a limited supply, government is stepping in with stimulus, pushing out money into a system, at the same time depleting the goods, and this is going to drive up prices, and they get their inflation. I said it from back in the earliest times of this whole thing. I mean, I was doing videos back in 2019 talking about inventory mills depletions, curtailments, inventory levels falling. I mean, I was very much ahead of the lumber game, and that was one of the reasons why my channel became so popular, is because of that. So we go and look at what's happening in China right now, and we see that there's major lockdowns taking place. It's like over 100 million people are locked down. Shanghai is like completely locked down. 90% of trucking is stopped. Like, they are not transporting anything. This isn't major this is a major hub. This is where everything gets transferred through. Shipping is now routing their containers to other ports because they simply just don't have a place to put these refrigerated containers, because they have no place to plug them in so they can continue to operate the refrigeration units. Now, you think about this, in this continuing severing of the supply chain, what is it going to do to the economy? Right? It's going to cause more inflation. Well, China doesn't have quite the inflation that was taking place over on the western side, where we were getting a lot of inflation. So here this big shift is taking place in the United States, and other economies, Western economies, where people are no longer wanting to hang out at home. They're not buying the stuff that you would put into a home. They're not buying TVs and furniture and new cooking, cookingware. They're not doing that. They're going out and enjoying experiences. They're going off and traveling. They're going off and paying for more services out there. And so we can see that the inflation that was running rampant here in the United States, well, it's going to start peaking out because we're opening up our economy. And even though I was reading how Philadelphia has instituted a mask mandate again, it makes me wonder how long that'll last or how prevalent that's going to become. Because if you think about this, go and read these articles. Right? If you go and you think about what could happen if the inventory levels at these warehouses all of a sudden grows to the point that they're not moving the material out of it, they will start to drop price. They need to pay rent on those things. Right? They need to pay for the leases. And the way you pay for the leases is to be transferring goods through those things. Well, if people have stopped buying and you're having this buildup of supply because there was this over-ordering that took place during this bullwhip effect, when we've talked about this bullwhip effect many times. I guess let me run over the bullwhip effect. It's when there is obscurities throughout the distribution lines. So all of a sudden there's orders coming in, but the orders aren't getting filled, or there's like allocations taking place, so they're only getting a limited supply, so they start over ordering, or they feel that the prices are going to go up or that they just won't be able to get it, so they order more than what they would typically order. These obscurities start traveling through the distribution network, or in the distribution line. So if you can imagine, like, all of a sudden there's orders coming in because customers have purchasing more than what they want. This is where the big spike in consumer demand came from. And all of a sudden these orders start traveling through the distribution network. Well, all of a sudden it gets to the manufacturers, who ramp up production and start sending those products through the line. Well, by the time they start getting to the retail end, when the people need to start buying it, it's all of a sudden stopped because they've already made all their purchases. They're no longer in fear of inflation going up. They're no longer in fear of supply not being available because there's all of a sudden plenty of supply. But now the manufacturers are not finding orders, so they start to slow down and they stop production. This is where I'm getting very concerned about things, because this is the bullwhip effect, is that these undersupplies begin to take place. Well, already you can see that we are going to get oversupply in these warehouses. There is a booming warehouse industry taking place throughout, like building industry, taking place throughout the nation. I mean, I'm finding articles where like certain communities are like, hey, our entire like neighborhood is turning into these warehouses for all this, storing of all this stuff. And people might say like, well, we're going from like a global distribution network to a more, localized distribution. But I don't feel that's necessarily the case. I feel that it's like this buildup of all this inventory due to these mass orders that have come in, but really are just like not necessarily legitimate orders, but more of like panic buying and fear of shortages taking place, and over ordering due to allocations that had happened. And all of a sudden this big huge buildup of inventory begins to grow here in the United States. Well, when that stuff starts to come on the line, I mean, when people need to start buying this stuff and there's nobody there and the prices fall, that's going to be very damaging. It's going to be very damaging for everybody out there in the economy, because they're going to start paying or receiving less for their items that they had typically paid a higher price for, due to all the shipping and fuel costs and energy costs and storage costs and everything that went into this stuff. That is going to be very damaging for profits. Now, I guess I'm getting a little, probably making this a little bit more confusing than it really should be, but what we're going to find from China now is that we're going to have a manufacturing slowdown take place. At the same time, we have this huge inventory buildup that's taking place here in the United States. As that inventory depletes and gets consumed, there's not going to be another supply coming in because they're no longer manufacturing. Well, I shouldn't say they're no longer manufacturing. The manufacturing has dropped dramatically. So your real time to prepare is, well, you should be finishing your preparations right now. Because this is it. We are going to find a moment where we are going to find goods and services and things become a lot more affordable. The dollar is going to strengthen on the world scale. We're going to find a lot of goods and services here in the United States that are going to be cheaper, and people are going to be all happy about it. They're even going to talk about like saving in the dollar because the interest rates are going to rise. And when people start to save in the dollar, they're not going to realize that they're going to slow the economy down even more. And this is going to drop goods and services, even more prices, even more savings, even higher interest rates. And then eventually, it all gets consumed. And there's nothing to spend the money on. And there's nobody manufacturing, and there's nobody working. And then the real depression begins. Okay, good times with Simon in the morning. Uneducated economist, you guys let me know. I guess before I let you go, check out the podcast. I've been trying to promote the podcast a little bit more, and if you'd rather listen to these things as opposed to watching them here on YouTube, you can find it at over at my website, uneducatedeconomist.com. And the name of the podcast is You Guys Let Me Know. Also, I will do coffee at the Coffee Girl on Pier 39, at the end of Pier 39 there, between 9 and 11 on Thursday morning. That's where I will do like the meetup if anybody's interested. It's probably going to be pretty nasty weather, so I don't think we're going to be able to sit outside much, and that place can get pretty busy at times. So, I don't know. I'll try and grab a table, and if people show up, cool. If not, I will read a book. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.